So fairly early on in my young dating life, I learned that there are gradations and levels to the phrase cock-blocked. Most common, level 1, you're at a house party or out at a bar and a stranger comes up and wrecks your flow with a new prospect for the evening, right? Then there's a second level. Intentionally or not, your friends. Your friends who know you just so well who can come up and level you with a line. So it's 2001, Mount Pleasant, DC, and my buddy Sean, best friend, and I crashed this house party. It's going superbly well. I'm dressed in my actual Blockbuster uniform because that was my job at the time. People thought it was ironic and hipsterish, like wearing a gas station attendant thing, until they saw that it actually had my real name tag, Peter, and that it meant it was the real uniform, not a fake thing. So I'm talking to a woman who's dressed like Jane Eyre. Tall, brunette, long Victorian garb dress, and it is wonderful. Until my buddy Sean shows up, about 20 minutes in. He goes, "Oh, hey, Peter, who's your new friend?" And I let her introduce herself. She goes, "Oh, you're Sean. Peter's told me a lot about you." Sean looks at me, looks at her, looks back at me, looks at her, and just says, "If there's one thing Peter can do, it's talk." And then he just turns and walks away. I'm leveled, I'm done. There's no way to salvage the situation. So that's level 2. But then there's a third level, level 3. Fast forward 3 years. I'm a second-year law student, and I've got this amazing summer internship down in Atlanta where we are doing juvenile law lobbying for all of the foster care kids who've managed to graduate from high school. There's a huge meth problem, and the goal is for them to have somewhere to be when they're 18 so that they don't end up homeless or addicted. Spent the entire summer doing that. Prestigious fellowship, one of 55 students, law schools across the country. Harvard, Emory, Georgia Tech, doesn't matter. We're all there. It's the last night, banquet gala. The governor is in attendance. His wife speaks, he speaks, and we are giving back to these kids. Bussing tables, working as ushers. It's our night to give back. And there, I see her from across the room. Heart starts going like this. Words catch in my throat, but I walk over. We start chatting. It works out. She gives me a ride home. Fellow law student, probably 25 years old. Date 2 goes well. Date 3, my apartment, and I decide to go all out. 4-course, homemade, home-cooked meal with dessert. Again, it's going well. And my roommate comes home. Fellow law student, okay. He clicks in fine, everything's going well, until this point where towards the end of the meal, the dessert is almost ready. So, you know, I'm about to close the deal, as it were. And we get to talk about a very popular comedy that year, Napoleon Dynamite. My roommate at this point and I bonded over Napoleon Dynamite, where we would just take study breaks and watch discrete scenes, because it's not a great movie, but there are like phenomenal little bits of it that are fabulous. And so we're talking about that, and she just gets quiet. And then she just shuts down and said, "What's the problem?" My roommate says, "Hey, this movie's amazing. Didn't you know people like that in high school?" She looks at me and says, "You mean last year?" "Excuse me, what? How old are you?" We've had about a bottle of wine at this point. 19. How? But you were part of that fellowship. That aren't you a third-year law student? No. My dad's kind of a CEO in town. Town's Atlanta. He pulled some strings. So, looking back on it, I think I could have actually salvaged the situation, but at that point in my life, I'm 26 years old, and I'm talking to somebody who not only can't drink, could barely vote, drove me home in a $70,000 car that I couldn't drive, by the way, 3 weeks earlier. I just couldn't. So the third level, just so you all know, is when you cock block yourself. Yeah, I'm gonna go, and she leaves. And, you know, my roommate and I ate the tiramisu by ourselves.